Hello, this is Ted Argyle from Adrenaline Martial Arts Centre, and welcome to the third video on our Facebook page. In my pearls of wisdom, I've decided to make these videos just a little bit shorter. I've noticed the last couple of videos I've done run for 10 to 15 minutes, and it's probably just a little bit too long to hold your attention, because I found my wife falling asleep when she was watching it. So I figured that if she's falling asleep watching it, some of you guys probably are as well. So we're going to do a lot more videos, but they're just going to be in shorter in time frame, so that we can all stay awake and listen to what I'm talking about. So today I wanted to touch on my teaching methodology, which will actually run over quite a few videos. As promised as well, I'll also be taking some footage from the classroom so you can get a visual look of how we run the classes and what we do. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you a bit of an introduction into how I teach my classes and how I run the school here from a teaching perspective. The martial arts world is really divided into, as far as a teaching and dispersing information kind of world, is kind of split into three different categories. So you have one category of martial arts instructor who is what we call a traditional martial arts instructor. In Australia here, most of our martial arts in history up until about probably the last 10 years or so have had mainly a Japanese, Korean or Chinese kind of background. Of course now with the advent of MMA and all the rest of it, we have martial arts cropping up like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which wasn't heard of 25 years ago in Australia. And then you have MMA, which is becoming a system within itself as well. And we've always had boxing in Australia as well, which is basically, it's a Western martial art. So you've got martial arts which are of predominantly Asian descent, primarily Japan, Korea, China. And then you have martial arts of Western descent, like boxing, MMA. As far as dispersing information, I guess Muay Thai and kickboxing is, from a teaching perspective, has become very westernized, even though its origins are from Thailand. But very few Thai boxing instructors in the West actually teach with Thai language and all the rest of it. Some of the customs are the same, some of the bowing and some of the traditional ceremonial aspects of Muay Thai are also incorporated, but for the most part it's the teaching methodology is very westernized. And then the third category of martial arts instruction is kind of a hybrid of Western teaching methodologies and Eastern teaching methodologies. So my initial background was in a system that had an amalgamation of those two ideas. So there was some Western, what you call communication strategies and teaching strategies, and they were also interlaced and interweaved with some Asian teaching methodologies and systems. So as I've developed as a martial artist, and in particular as a martial arts instructor, I've found that, particularly because my teaching schedule is so busy, I teach about 30 to 35 classes per week, year in and year out. I've been doing that for about 20 years now. I've found that for me to really enjoy my job, I've had to gravitate to a teaching style that makes the most sense for me. So for what I teach and how I prefer to teach, I prefer the Western type of disbursement of information, is probably one way to describe it, rather than the Eastern. So if someone was doing a class here, they're not going to get anything that simulates like a Japanese martial art or a Korean martial art as far as how we present the material. A traditional martial arts instructor generally has some Asian language within the system. They also have some Asian terminology and to describe the techniques and what they're doing. And there'll also be certain etiquette between the student and the instructor, and between the instructor and the student, which has kind of, for want of a better term, an Asian kind of flair. I don't teach classes that way. That's not to say that the Asian method is inferior. I think the Asian method is great, and certainly when I first started martial arts and I was in that system that had a hybrid of Western methodologies and Asian methodologies, it was great. I really enjoyed that and got a lot from it. But for me personally, I have gravitated completely the other way. So I'm purely a Western communicator. So in the classes here, we don't use any Asian terminology, no Asian etiquette, anything like that. So it's all Western. About the only thing that's similar to a martial art of Asian descent is that our uniform is of Asian descent. But that's the way I see that, because of the sport or the physical activity we're involved in. It's like, you know, all basketball players wear roughly the same kind of gear worldwide. All soccer players wear the same type of gear worldwide. Most martial artists wear the same type of gear worldwide. So even though our martial arts uniform has a Asian look about it, how we actually present the material and to a larger extent what we teach is not heavily influenced by the Asian martial arts like karate, taekwondo and some of the Chinese systems. So that's kind of the introduction to my teaching methodology, just to say that I'm not a traditional martial arts instructor. I'm not a hybrid of traditional and what we call Western martial arts, but I'm purely a Western martial arts instructor in my communication style. Some of the techniques, of course, will pull from different martial arts from all over the world, but as far as my communication style is purely Westernized. So that's my first intro into how I teach over the next couple of weeks. So I look forward to sharing some more. Thank you.